What am I seeing here? Good morning, Nikki. How are you? Good to see you. The world's largest D&D game ever. What is this about? Okay, let's check it out.
Welcome to Demo!
Holy God, what's going on
Many
here?
will perish, but think of the legions more who will live and will have peace, free from the shadows, free of Skoda. This is our final chance.
How many people are at this thing, man? How do you even do that?
Welcome to Utah.
In Utah, 2024, on May 3rd and 4th.
I'm Robert, and I'm here at the Geek Together Tavern at the Provo Town Center Mall, where there's going to be a world record event of the largest D&D game ever played. Last year, they already got the Guinness World Record for it with 1,200 people, and...
Oh, Jesus. 1,200 people in this mall. Isn't that a fire hazard? What's going on?
This year, they're going to have more than 1,500. It's
1,500? How in the hell do you play Dungeons and Dragons with 1,500 people, man? That is insane.
all of the people coming together to play one single game of Dungeons and Dragons, and it's going to be pretty epic.
For real, man. Stop. For real,
the general
dude.
structure of how this is going to work is that obviously there's thousands of people coming, and then we've got hundreds of DMs at each of the tables. And then we've got several dozen generals that are basically roaming people, moderators essentially. They're going between tables, keeping the pacing right, making sure that the entirety of the story is happening around the same time. And then the generals are reporting to the captains. The captains are, there's 4 of them, and they're dividing into 4 groups: the paratroopers, the infantry, the liberators, and the raiders. Each of those have different objectives to run during the entire game, and then they all report back to the one guy, the sort of the captain of the entire guard, the prince, who is taking down the 2 main evil guys.
The way that this works is that there are successes and failures on a grand scale and on a small scale.
Right.
So at each table, if you succeed or fail, that changes the rest of the story if everybody else in your one shot also succeeds or fails.
Wow, dude. Wow, man. This is insane. This is insanity.
And so with these macro successes and micro successes happening all the time,
so it's like how we do group skill checks in D&D, where it's like everybody roll a stealth check, more than half of you need to succeed.
So the best example that I used is that there was a wall, right? And the undead army is attacking the wall, and so everyone was defending a single section. But if the wall fell, enough people, more than 50% of the wall sections failed at their objective of defending their section of the wall. And so on a macro scale, the wall failed. Yeah. But on a micro scale, if one of those tables had succeeded while everybody else had failed, they got a unique story path where they went off and did something else. Right. While every other table who failed and the wall fell, they all became prisoners of war.
So it's, each table's getting like a flow chart almost of like,
yes, that's it.
If you succeed but the wall fails, this path. If you succeed and the wall succeeds,
awesome.
it's this path. Yeah. If you fail and the wall succeeds, it's this path.
The logistics of making sure that all of that was reported to us and reported back in time.
I can't imagine the logistics.
It was a lot. It was a lot.
How do you even get your head around like running the logistics of running 1,200 people in a game? Like you hadn't done anything like that before.
True.
How did you know? How did you know? How did you know what you even needed to know? Like it's one of those situations where you don't know what you don't know, because it's like
very true.
How did you go about that?
So we knew the dungeon master is one of the core elements.
Yeah.
The dungeon master controls your table. All right. So if we can give 80 to 90% of the system to the dungeon master, they'll do most of the work.
Right.
And because that's what we do as dungeon masters.
Yeah.
We build an entire world.
Yeah.
The way to report is, I just have to raise a different color paper.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not too hard. I can do that.
Yeah.
And so we give the system to the dungeon masters, and then we have have runners, or we call them generals. They communicate to the tables to report on that kind of stuff. So I see a red card. Oh, that means that table has completed this objective.
Right. Card's a white card, which means their players are dying, or a color card, which means they're ready to report on an objective that they've completed. How many enemies they've killed, how much damage have they done, how many objectives they've completed. That's basically how we're keeping track of everything that's going on when we have 1,000 players playing D&D at the same time.
And then you have a head dungeon master, and this is the hard part. The head dungeon master has to take all of those reports, and they have to then parse out that information to be like, okay, we have had 20 of the cavalry tables complete their objective. So that means cavalry have killed enough enemies that there should be less reinforcements for the enemies. So now I need to get the word out to every dungeon master that the enemy forces have dwindled a bit. And we wrote the packet in a way that it had like 8 possible branches, and the dungeon masters had a vision of that. So one of the things that happened that was really shocking in the game is the people who were supposed to defend the wall, they failed. They didn't defend the wall, and so the walls fell, and the enemies were able to get inside, and it wreaked havoc on everyone. And so all we sent out word, the walls have fallen, and the dungeon masters are like, I was hoping, and they flip over to
and they flip the script to where like all chaos breaks out, man. This is insanity. You imagine the amount of work that this
they're like, roll for initiative, finally. It just got dicey.
As for how I fit in, I'm going to be one of the roaming sort of gate crashers. I'm going to be jumping into tables, being like, are you okay? What's happening? Give me the lowdown. An arrow comes whizzing in from the side and takes out that goblin that's causing you trouble, and then he hands you a potion, chucks it down your mouth. 2d4 plus 2 heal, and then he says, good luck, adventurers, and then runs away. That's kind of going to be me. I'm going to be running up and down the length of the mall from 4 till 8 through the entirety of the session, and just trying to help people out wherever possible.
So dungeon masters, go ahead and come over and let us know that they are here, ready to go. They're going to pull up their confirmation email, and then we go ahead and give them a few things. We're going to give them a sheet of paper to go on their table.
Nice.
We're going to give them a dice tray, a set of dice, and a dice bag. We're going to give them a miniature of one of the enemies that they're going to encounter.
Oh, nice.
And then they have some communication cards.
That's
one
cool.
that I need help, and one we're ready to proceed with our generals.
Good.
And then a packet if they need it.
Right, and so I need help. This is what I'm going to be looking out for as a roaming guy. Aim a little higher and gives you advantage on that roll, the fireball. Let's go! Tell me about the origins of the Dead Wars then. So how did it go from owning a shop in a mall here to being like, let's get a Guinness World Record?
Let's get 1,000 people together and play. It was a really dumb idea. I remember walking down the street and I told my wife, I'm like, you know, like it would be so cool to play in a game with 100 people, helms deep, right? Like, what if you were the archers on the wall? What if you were like the guards on the gate? Like, wouldn't that be cool if like your table was a spot on the battlefield?
We said the only way that you'd make that work is if you did this. And we're all, that'd be impossible, because you'd also have to do this. That's impossible too. Until eventually we had the whole thing planned out, and we were like, that's hilarious. No one could do that. Except us. We could do that. So I wrote up a big presentation, or I printed it off and put it in a binder. I came into the shop and I gave it to Andy, and I was like, this is how you do it. For your consideration.
This is how you do it.
This is how you do it.
I'm available to hire.
And they called me back and they were like, you're insane, you're on. Right, like come in, and we need to have you have this, we need it done by April.
So every table now has assigned one of their players as the table captain. And then the table captains have to physically get up and go to the other captains and decide amongst themselves where their table is going to be focused on the map. There's all sorts of different areas they can be focused. Freeing the prisoners, attacking the airships, killing the angels, all sorts of different things, all sorts of different quests and missions. And if too many of them go for the airship because that sounds coolest, then guess what? The prisoners don't get freed. So they've got to kind of work out, hey, we need more people over here, we need more people over here. There's going to be a lot more collaboration between the tables. And you get advantage on your next roll, and then he runs away.
How many player characters died in this, would you imagine? How many player characters died in this event, man? Never to be seen again. Half. Causing a giant D&D mob like the likes the world has never seen. The mall is a riot.
That was awesome.
Everybody was able to work with it. The dungeon masters were fantastic. The reporting system had to be
really
flawless, and that was one thing that worked really well. And then, it was capturing that imagination of like we're in a war together.
The whole point of this system that we've built is that it's infinitely scalable. You can do it at 4 tables. You can do it at 4,000. We really want as many people as possible to have the experience of being with so many people and telling these kind of stories. It's incredible. It's truly incredible.
And last year, I don't think there was the remote play aspect that they've got this year, right? Was that?
That's right. Yeah.
So where did the idea for the getting other people outside of here get involved?
We had a lot of people the day of who would walk in and say, I didn't know this was happening, and it was a good thing they didn't. We were already overflowed. We only had enough chairs for 1,000 people, and we found 200 extras.
Jeez, nice.
Allowing other people who can't even make the event, you can still play and you can still affect the battle. Because that's the cool thing about TTRPGs is like it's a game for everyone. Anyone, you should play if you have an interest in it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so being able to gather everyone under a flag and be like, let's all battle together. Let's all play together. I don't know. The world needs stuff like that where we can all get together and have fun together.
That's cool.
Thanks to online play, thanks to things like Discord and Roll20, and thanks to COVID, wildly enough.
Right?
COVID really did kickstart a lot of people playing D&D online together. And we thought, D&D is all about the feeling of community, and we don't want to leave anybody out. We want to be inclusive. Hyper-inclusive.
We want to be hyper-exclusive.
Only the best. We want to be hyper-inclusive to anybody that wanted to be a part of this.
One of the crazy things that I find when I talk to people, when I'm interviewing them for my short rest series or here at the events like this, is how different the pandemic was for the people in the D&D community. Because it was both a blessing and a curse in very different ways. The majority of people that get their start doing D&D businesses and things like that started during the pandemic, because the demand for any sort of connectivity with other friends, the demand for any sort of escapism from the craziness that was the world during the COVID pandemic, it led to this huge boom in people getting together and telling stories. Whereas at the same time, it was also a time where people couldn't literally get together in person. So all of these online actual plays started up, all these podcasts, all of these these dice companies and things where people could buy things in, get stuff delivered to their homes, and then play it at the safety of their own house. So I found just this weird trend in how, for some people, they were put off playing in person, but then turned online, and the VTTs like Roll20 and Foundry and all the other ones, they took off and started booming. Even myself included, my Twitch.
You know, it's kind of weird. I just gravitated naturally towards D&D again after not being involved with it for decades. You know, it is kind of strange. Oh, is he dancing? Sorry, I'm sorry.
It took off.
I think we need one of these slow-mos here. Hold on a second.
The other ones, they took off and started booming. Even myself included, my Twitch.
Here we go. Slow-mo Rob dancing. Slow. Oh, man. Come on. Where is it at? Playback.
It took off hugely in 2020 during the lockdown. See a tiny little hooded gnome run past, doing some parkour and dipping between different things. I got some healing potions, Who needs a healing potion? Keep up the good work! And then he runs off. It is looking incredibly positive for the players. They took out the barracks that had all of the enemies, the main hit points of the enemies in it. They managed to save all the prisoners of war. They managed to take out the airship. All 4 of their objectives, not a problem. They moved into phase 3, Act 3 rather, and not only are they in Act 3 fighting Eos directly, they've moved him into phase 2 of his journey. So he is getting lower on hit points.
Got a little LARPing going
Seems like
here.
with this many people fighting, he's not got much of a chance.
And when you finished the whole thing, I imagine you went comatose for a couple of weeks.
I definitely slept for a while.
At what point, when you woke up again, did you go, let's do that again next year?
Let's do it again. I'm a glutton for punishment, I guess. But really the turning point for me was walking around the mall during the game and watching table after table after table having fun.
Yeah.
And then that was what made me fall in love with it.
The infectious energy of everybody enjoying it.
I mean, it was a little selfish at the beginning because I'm like,
I did this.
I want a world record for my store. But watching all these people having fun was like, holy cow, we have all brought everyone together to have such a fun time, and people still come in and they're like, that was such a fun game.
And grabbing his sword drives it into Eos's heart.
They took the fight to Eos. They annihilated him. A lot of people did go down, such as the cost of war, but in the end, they did
an astounding 39,856 damage
and defeated Eos and his brother. Succeeded at the Dead Wars, at least for this year. They're going to hope to do the same again next year, and given that they had 1,200 the first year, over 1,400 this year, maybe next year's going to be even bigger.
That's crazy.
Maybe you want to be involved. Check it out.
Thank you, everyone who made this possible.
At the end of the day, like I'm talking about how I've changed people's lives, not because it matters too much to me. Like, it's sweet, but it really is about building a community that does uplift one another. I'm happy that I got to be a part of it. I'm happy that other people are feeling inspired to go do it themselves. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, and that D&D funk, yo. That D&D funk, funkiest day ever. At least half of them need to take a shower. But God bless them. They're having fun. They're being positive and loving, and that's awesome. And I endorse that. And I love the D&D community, and I love the fact that people in the D&D community are generally very positive, happy, fun people. You know, so cool. Very cool. I kind of want to get involved in that. That's kind of